So I'm back here talking about what I would call the broken church. And maybe just that as a given, if you're going to talk about humans endeavoring to be whole. It assumes we're broken from the beginning. That's kind of the original sin theology. And I want to allude to my first video there. Forgive me for the lighting, and I'll try to speak a little louder and clear. I'm doing this impromptu with very few notes, just a lot of reflecting. But if we come back to the theme here, basically the community not attentive to its body, with some inherent and just outright abuse by the leadership. You have what I would call a dysfunctional and dismembered community. And when I say dismembered, the people are leaving. It's breaking apart. Some people, well, anyway, we go into lots of reasons why people leave, but I want to restate that language is assuming they're the ones doing the leaving. And I want to go back and say, no, that's not correct thinking. When we are not attentive to the needs of our companions, then we are the ones doing the abandoning. We are the ones leaving. So the dysfunction that I wanted to explore and how to remedy that, because there's a remedy. There's hope. There is something that I'm grasping at here. The dysfunction is systematic, meaning that the boundaries of right and wrong, healthiness have been broken down. In a dysfunctional family, usually this is surrounding an addicted personality, a compulsive personality of some sort. In that family, the boundaries break down. The ship is listing and it never rights. It can't apologize. It can't look out for the best interest of its members. It essentially looks out for only the interest of the addict. And the addict and its codependent partner usually prop up the addict. And that's kind of the same model we have going on here in the Catholic Church. And we, the laity, are the codependent parties. The clergy, being most clergy, are the broken addicts, and I use that in a metaphorical way. So you have to say, well, what is healthy? Well, first of all, I want to go back to the dynamics that are happening even to this day at our church. When I want to step back and go back to these sexually abusive personalities, and we even had one here recently at the high school in Ketchikan. And they've asked and they've interviewed and they've studied these people. What makes somebody, physically sexually abuse another person? Well, there's a whole sequential process that happens where, the person picks out a person that just, isolated, a youth maybe. Let's take a teacher situation. They find a person that's isolated, lonely. They befriend them. They care for them. They then start to, after they've built that trust up somewhat, they then erode the boundaries of adult to child. And this erosion happens in lots of ways over time. And then after the boundary of adult to child is eroded, then the physical contact is tried, and if the victim is somewhat already, in this kind of cloudy relationship, can be receptive, and sometimes they're not, and then the abuse can take place. So that's a quick kind of outline of kind of the track of abuse. And so I take the same kind of view of clergy and pastoral abuse. So this is not abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, basically not breaking of civil laws. These are pastoral forms of abuse. Pastoral meaning that the pastor or the people around the pastor or the bishop that enable them, they break the rules that are already in place, and they slowly erode the boundary, and they do it in very simple, subtle, and innocuous, banal ways. They might not follow one part of the rules about how a donation is handled, but it's minor. No money was misspent, this kind of thing. Then eventually maybe some money is misspent, but it's replaced. Or it can even be who and how is acting on a different advisory council. Well, the advisory council for the school board at art is supposed to pick the administrator for the school. The priest has explicitly said, no, they are not doing that. This is a breach of a boundary. And this happens all the time, and then pretty soon the lady becomes powerless. If someone dares stand up, they are given an obscure excuse, a rationale, or some justification, and this is where the abuse begins. And the boundaries of right and wrong, the boundaries of authority get twisted. And the most recent now is that after this misspent funds last year, the bishop orders a third-party audit of the parish finances. The audit takes place. It funds many financial problems, accounting irregularities, I think the bishop said. But we're going to get under. We're going to take care of it. We put the finances of the parish in control of the financial manager, diocese, and so on. But you know what? We're not going to let you see the audit. Once again, transparency and erosion of trust. I'm going to have to